welcome back to another Shared News from Home. We are live today because there are some major Chris Harrison and Bachelor in Paradise updates. We're going to dive into all the details, but before we get started, if you are new here, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any future lives, any future videos. We are always keeping you up to date on Bachelor Nation. As always, I am your host, Fiona Zaring, joined by the wonderful Morgan Wright and Zachary Reality. You guys, this is just such crazy news. We have to literally dive right in. First things first, Chris Harrison is not, definitely not, coming back to host Bachelor in Paradise this summer. This has been one of the big questions we have had for some time. I feel like we have talked about this over and over and over again. So now that it's official, Morgan, I have to ask you, did you think this might be the moment he would come back, or does this not surprise you at all?
No, this doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, if I had to make a bet, if I was a betting woman putting money on one horse, I would say that Chris Harrison probably was going to sit out the entire year. I mean, I know that we don't have anything confirmed yet, but we do know that he wasn't going to come back for Katie's season. I feel like it would just be a bit odd for him to come back to a Paradise situation instead of one of the Bachelor or Bachelorettes. And I just feel like, when it comes down to it, without there being a Bachelor for him to come back to, I just couldn't see him coming back to Michelle's season. For some reason, I don't know, that sits differently with me. What do you think, Zach?
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. I definitely did not think Chris was going to come back. A lot of people of color from the Bachelor franchise have kind of said that they don't feel comfortable going to Paradise if Chris was going to be the host. I know Ivan said that and a few other people in interviews recently. So I was not expecting Chris Harrison to come back to Paradise. And I was definitely not expecting all of the other news that we're going to dive into with what's happening with Bachelor in Paradise. I was not expecting all of that either. So Fiona, do tell.
Yes. Oh my God. There is a lot to unpack, but really fast to Morgan's point, she's on it because two separate sources did tell Variety that it's highly unlikely that Chris is going to be hosting Michelle's season of The Bachelorette. So that doesn't look like it's happening. If he returns, these sources are sort of hinting that the soonest would be for season 26 of The Bachelor, which would be in January of 2022. So he's basically going to be sitting out the rest of 2021. I feel like that makes sense, especially Zachary, to your point. Like, a lot of people were hesitant. There was a big controversy in Bachelor Nation that he was sort of the face of. Zachary, do you feel like this is the right move? Like, take the rest of 2021, take a extended step back, and then re-enter where he kind of originated, right? With The Bachelor. I mean, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think that kind of makes the most sense. It would be really hard to imagine him being on Paradise or on Michelle's season. I almost feel like Caitlyn and Tayshia might end up hosting Michelle's season, depending on how everyone reacts to them on Katie's season. And yeah, I think that the scandal and the controversy was really big. A lot of people were really upset about it. And, he's going to take the year off. I mean, who knows if he's ever even going to come back. By the time it is The Bachelor 2026, are people going to forget about him or be over it, or is he going to be over it personally? Does he even want to come back? We really don't know much because Chris Harrison isn't really saying much, but I think that the franchise can move on without him.
Morgan, do you agree, or do you think he'll definitely be back for the next Bachelor?
Yeah, well, to Zach's point, I do also agree, and I know I said it before, that it just would feel odd for him to show up on a Bachelor in Paradise season or Michelle's season. It feels like this year kind of needs to be a bit of a palate cleanser for the Bachelor franchise, for lack of a better word. We need something different. We need something new. We kind of need to distance ourselves from all the craziness that's been happening over the past couple of seasons. And I feel like a year is a substantial amount of time for Chris Harrison to do what he said and put in the work himself, educate himself a little bit more. I feel like Katie's season, if he would have come back then, would have definitely been rushed. I feel like Paradise isn't formal enough. I know that might sound like an odd statement to make, but it just would feel weird to me to see him in a Paradise setting after everything that has just happened. I do think that he'll come back, though, being on the franchise for so long, being the face of The Bachelor for 20 years. While I don't agree with what he did, I really would hate for this to be how it ended for Chris Harrison. And I feel like if he can really, put his money where his mouth is, do the things that he needs to do behind the scenes to kind of rewrite his ending a little bit. I mean, who knows how long he'll stay if he does come back in 2022. But I don't want to see it end like this. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of fans, they wanted him to be held accountable, and he, said he was going to do that. But I don't think that people are rooting for him to have this be the end of such a long lasting legacy. So that totally makes sense to me. You guys, we want to know, send us your thoughts in the chat. Were you expecting Chris to come back for Paradise? Were you hoping to see him? And when do you think we'll be seeing him next? Let us know, because we want to hear your thoughts as well, of course. We're going to move on, though, because as Zachary teased, there's a whole second half to this huge news, and it is truly wild, you guys. That's, of course, who is going to be his replacement. Now that we know he's out, who is in? Very interesting. His role is reportedly going to be filled by multiple celebrity comedians, meaning there's not going to be one host for the season. We're going to see multiple celebs taking it on. As of right now, if you've been on Twitter, you've probably heard the first celebrity host we're aware of is David Spade. Sources are explaining that production was interested in David because he is a very public, long-time Bachelor Nation fan. He covers it constantly on his social media. He keeps up with it. He's done segments on Jimmy Kimmel, I think it is, about it. I mean, this is a huge part of who he is, evidently. And they think he'll bring some fun to the show. Now, with all of that being said, Bachelor Nation had mixed reactions. I scrolled through Twitter. Some people were absolutely jumping for joy, said that they follow David Spade on his socials for his Bachelor commentary, that they think this is going to be a lot of fun. Other people were like, what the heck is David Spade doing in Paradise? This doesn't work for me. So Morgan, where do you fall on that spectrum? Are you excited about this? What are your thoughts on David?
Yeah, at first I was very confused, but at that point I hadn't put two and two together. The shock value was like, what? David Spade? Because we were all expecting it to be somebody from Bachelor Nation, or maybe even Emmanuel Acho, especially after he did such a great job the last time around. But now that I've had some time to process my feelings and thoughts, I actually think it is a really smart move for the franchise. Kind of going back to what I said, I can finally verbalize what I was trying to say, and that Bachelor in Paradise feels too fun and happy-go-lucky for Chris to come back after such a serious incident that took place, right? It just doesn't make sense. However, to have somebody like David Spade, who is known because he is hilarious and sarcastic and witty, I think it's just a perfect fit. I also was reminded, now fun fact, you guys might not know this about me, I was on 2 minutes and 30 seconds of Pilot Peter season of The Bachelor, just a little cameo, and it jogged my memory because David Spade did an Instagram story about me on the show. And I remember people were sending it to me because he was like, oh, Cleveland has the local commentary. They couldn't afford anybody else, which is probably true. But that's the first time that I saw David Spade's commentary on The Bachelor. And it is funny. It's hilarious. It's fun. It's lighthearted. It's what the franchise needs in this very moment. What do you think, Zach?
Yeah, I checked David's Instagram after the news was announced, and he has all these highlights under his Instagram of Claire, of Pilot Pete, of Hannah. So I'm glad that he is a longtime fan of The Bachelor, because I know that a lot of people were upset because Emmanuel, he wasn't a fan of The Bachelor. He didn't know anything about The Bachelor. Yes, he was very important to have those important conversations that needed to be had on After the Final Rose, but we want someone that is a fan of The Bachelor to be filling in for Chris's spot, which is why a previous contestant, or Wells Adams, who was the bartender, would have been a great decision as well. But I think that this is awesome. I'm totally here for that. I think it will bring in a lot of new viewers. We have an A-list actor and comedian. My only issue is that they're saying there might be a rotating list of celebrity comedians, and this is where I have a problem, because I want to see some structure. The show can't have a new host every week. That doesn't make sense to me. Otherwise, it's just going to be a mess. No one's going to take it seriously. I feel like we need some structure on Paradise. So I'd rather see David be there the whole 6 weeks. I don't want to see 6 different comedians. Then it will just take away from what the show is and make it more about the comedians.
Okay, see, that's really interesting because that was going to be my next question to you guys. Like, are you excited about the fact that we might have some different personalities coming in at different points of the series? Obviously, Zachary, you're not. And that's a really great point. Like, there's already a lot of chaos, to put it lightly, in Paradise. So having someone that really is there, keeping up with it all throughout, the whole season definitely has some value. Morgan, do you agree with that? Do you like the idea of rotating hosts? I mean, right now, David's the only guy that's signed on, and fans seem to be excited about it. So if they're still trying to close deals with other comedians, maybe it just ends up being David. I mean, we really don't know at this point. What are your thoughts, Morgan?
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, Zach, because I never thought about it from that angle, but you're totally right. Because especially in Paradise, there's new contestants constantly coming in as well. If you're having new contestants come in and you're also having new hosts come in, how is anybody supposed to know what the heck is going on the island? Most times Chris Harrison was like navigating people in their relationships. I mean, I know we see that play out on the show where the contestants kind of give each other the scoop on who's into who and whatever. But you do need structure, to Zach's point. You do need somebody to point people in the right direction. And if you have a new host showing up, they don't know who's hooking up with who. They don't know what's going on in the island. So it does seem a bit chaotic. Maybe the Bachelor franchise is just kind of throwing things at the wall and seeing what will stick. Maybe it's one of those things that the first 2 weeks there, David Spade does an awesome job. And at that point, nobody else is really confirmed to come on. And they just keep him there. I mean, I don't know. But if I were Wells, I feel like I would feel a little slighted. He's been on for a long time. He's a known radio host. He's a funny guy. It's like, why would you look over him when he's been doing so well for you in this role? It's confusing.
Yeah, and I mean, the other thing that I sort of thought of as you guys were talking is if you're going to celebrity comedians, right? Celebrity comedians who do TV, do movies, do comedy shows, like these people are not potentially even going to be willing to sign on, right? To go spend however long it's going to be in Paradise. So they maybe, like you said, Morgan, throwing things out there and don't have a fully formed plan because maybe David's not willing to stay for more than 2 weeks, even though the fans want it, right? It is very chaotic. I'm definitely with you on the Wells front. That's kind of where my gut was leaning. I thought we were going to see Wells. So the question I have is, would we have preferred, now that all is said and done, whether it's Wells or somebody else, instead of bringing in outside celebrities, outside funny personalities, would you guys have preferred to have seen a Bachelor Nation face, or is the celebrity thing, enticing to you? Zachary, how do you feel?
I would have preferred to see Wells there the entire time. If David wanted to stay the entire time, then I think that would be fine. But I think it's, hard to ask a well-known actor to take 6 weeks off or 2 months off out of their life to come on to Bachelor in Paradise. So I get that he can't be there the whole time, but then have him maybe just show up for an episode or an appearance. And then we need one person to host the entire thing from the beginning to the end. And Wells has put in the effort. He's put in the time. He's been the bartender for the past 3 years. I still think he'll be the bartender this year. And I think him and David would have a really funny rapport. But I would have preferred Wells to do it originally. And I wish that he was. I want to see one person do it so we have structure, because Paradise is already a mess. As Morgan said, we have new contestants coming in every single week. Paradise is a complete mess. So we need someone to kind of hold down the fort. And if David is going to dip after a week or two, then you might as well have Wells be there the whole time.
Morgan, would you agree? I mean, clearly we're some strong Wells fans on this live. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Team Wells.
Yeah, so I agree, but I disagree respectfully. If it was going to be a Bachelor Nation alum, it would have been Wells. But I necessarily don't want to see a Bachelor Nation alum be the host. I would honestly rather have a celebrity comedian, because it's like, I see these people on Instagram enough. I see these people on seasons of Bachelor in Paradise enough. And it's like, who really is the staple that could be a host? The only logical answer in my mind is Wells, because he is getting married to somebody who's not in the franchise. He's been
Mhm.
seen on Paradise for years, but not in a romantic role, in more of the funny person giving advice behind the scenes. So it just made the most sense. But otherwise, I can't think of a member of Bachelor Nation who I would want to be the host. So I'm glad they're going in a more celebrity comedian route. Just my opinion on that.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely listen. I actually agree with you both. Like, there's something to me, like, at first it was like, why David Spade? But then I was picturing it all, and Chris isn't like elderly by any means, right? I mean, he's older, but he's not ancient. But there's something to be said about like too many hot young people running around, talking to each other, giving advice in paradise. David Spade, I think, is going to be a welcome sort of change of energy. He's going to bring some wisdom. I know it's probably going to be through humor, but his age is going to make him different than the rest of the vibes of jokes, of commentary that we're going to be getting. So it'll be very, very interesting to see. Of course, you know, we have some answers, but we still have questions. Let us know in the chat, you guys. Are you liking the comedians? Would you have wanted to see Wells or somebody else from Bachelor Nation? Because things are still up in the air, honestly. Who knows what role, if any, Wells is going to take on? We'll have to wait and see. We do know Variety is reporting that production is set to begin next week. So we've talked about this, you guys. Like, they're getting down to the wire because it's coming out August 16th. So just next week, we're going to start seeing people jet off to paradise. Final prediction, since it's finally really happening, who do you guys think we're going to see on that beach? Morgan, who are your lead predictions right now?
Okay, for the girls, I think we're going to get a lot of Peter's girls because it's been a while since we've seen them and they weren't involved in the wreck that was Matt James' season. So I think we'll see Hannah Ann. I think we'll see Kelsey with a bottle of champagne, maybe. I do think that from Matt's season, we'll probably see Queen Victoria, even though I don't really necessarily want to see her there, but she lives for the spotlight. So, and as far as guys, I feel it's a bit trickier to pin down guys. I would love to see Ben Smith from Tayshia's season. He was one of my favorites. Brendan, because I feel like both of those guys are ready for serious relationships, but not necessarily engagements, which Paradise is a little looser when it comes to how you leave the island. You know, it's not completely frowned upon to leave in a happy relationship, kind of like Kaylin and Dean did. So I think we'll see Brendan because, you know, he did say that he wasn't ready for marriage, but maybe he's ready for a more serious relationship right now, and Ben Smith as well. Those are my predictions. Zach, what about yours?
I want to see Victoria F from Peter's season. I want to see Maddie from Peter's season. I want to see Noah and Bennett there. I want to see Kelly there because we know that Bennett has an interest in her. And it wouldn't hurt if Pilot Pete showed up and we had that whole... I need some Piper and some Chelsea, you know, from Matt season. I think we'll see MJ and Jasenia there. I think there'll be a lot of girls from Matt James' season, as well as Kit and, of course, Queen Victoria and maybe Queen Catalina. I think there's going to be a lot of people there, and I highly suggest everyone watching to really check your favorite Bachelor Nation's Instagram's accounts, because if they go off the grid on Instagram, we know where they are, because we know that filming, as Fiona mentioned, is set to begin next week. So definitely keep updated on all of your favorite Bachelor Nation's Instagrams, because that's how we're really going to get to find out who's there and who's not there.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I'm really excited. I love all of the names you guys just said. I think that would be amazing. My big thing is I'm thinking about some of the women from Peter's season, and I'm thinking about some of the women from Matt James' season and how they did not get along, right? But since then, like you said, especially Peter's season, so much time has passed. There have been all sorts of friendships that have come up. So I think it'll be really interesting to see if some of those dynamics that we've seen before, you mentioned MJ, like maybe they're going to be totally different on the beach, right? So very exciting whenever we get a new crop of people to sort of mix and mingle for the relationship side of things. But also, honestly, the personalities and the friendships, I always get really curious because so many people know each other now. There's so much cross-pollination on Instagram, right? Through DMs. You see girls getting brunch all the time. So very excited to see where this season takes us for all of the reasons, of course. I think we have time for just a few maybe questions and comments from the chats. So, you guys, if you haven't yet, quickly send us a question, send us a comment, let us know your thoughts on the Chris situation. Who's going to be in paradise? We obviously want to hear from all of you as well. Kicking things off here, we have Katie. She's talking about Chris, I believe. She says he's lawyered up with the attorney that represented Gabrielle Union when she was fired from America's Got Talent. Yes, this is true. A little while back, he did retain the same attorney who has negotiated different deals sort of and people entering and exiting different roles in TV, which I think of course raises eyebrows, but I also honestly to a certain point think it's just good sense. We know there are big conversations going on behind the scenes. We know there are complicated contracts that have been laid out. So I don't necessarily know that right now the way I view this news is as with as many alarm bells as I did when it first happened, because nothing's really happened yet. Chris said he was going to step back. He just hasn't stepped forward, but he also hasn't exited. So maybe this was just a crossing, or what is it, dotting the I's and crossing the T's? Maybe it still means trouble in the water. Morgan, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you have to be ready to go. You know what I mean? Like at that stage, I mean, that was a little bit ago, but at that stage, you have to be mentally prepared for whatever comes your way. If it's one of those things where they actually don't want to ever bring you back, it's like I said before, I don't want to see Chris Harrison go down that way. I don't think Chris Harrison wants his time on the Bachelor franchise to end that way. And if we can avoid that, we're going to do it. We got another comment from Ben that says, agree with Morgan, kind of sad for Chris. I'm starting to think any chance of a return is pretty remote now, and relationships between him and the network must be strained. I mean, yeah, kind of like to our point that we were just speaking about, Fiona, like even the fact that he had to hire a lawyer says that behind the scenes, things are probably pretty rocky. Tension is probably between all of them, you know. It's like one of those things where you have put your blood, sweat, and tears into something, and for it to end like this is just really sad. What do you think, Zach? Thoughts?
Yeah, it is so sad. I want to be able to see him come back and kind of leave on a high note. If not, if he never comes back, we're going to have to see him in like a tell-all, like hour-long interview so he can really share his side of the story, because he has been very private in regards to the situation. But Wendy says, I feel Tanner and Jade would be best because they know so much about BIP. David is not the best for the show. Yeah, that kind of goes back to our debate whether or not we should have someone from Bachelor Nation host. A couple I think would be really fun, but I don't think Jade and Tanner would do it. They have 3 little kids. They cannot go away from their kids for that long. I think if any couple would be able to do it and would be great, it would be JoJo and Jordan. I think that could have been a really fun idea to see a Bachelor couple who met on the show be able to host. But I guess, David Spade is where the franchise is going. So, yeah.
So funny. All right, Terrence says, I actually don't mind the rotating host because at the end of the day, the host doesn't do much. Chris Harrison didn't do much. Terrence, there is some wisdom to this for sure. Sometimes it makes me laugh because, of course, people are so passionate about, the people who are on their TV screens, and that is so wonderful. But like kind of with Tom Bergeron's Dancing with the Stars exit, Chris's exit here, I think it's really sweet that some fans are so invested in people who, make the show for them, but take on this kind of role, because Chris is great. I always enjoyed his presence, but at the end of the day, you're really watching, to me, The Bachelor or The Bachelorette. So I haven't exactly understood all of the passion behind who steps into these roles, but I think it's really great that people obviously care. And I think that it's important to try to make fans across the board feel like they're being heard and listened to. So don't envy producers behind the scenes trying to navigate this, but I'm interested to see where it goes, obviously.
Yeah, our next comment is from Natalie. She says, I think that Queen Victoria will be the bad chat of the season, not finding love. Absolutely. I heard Queen Victoria on a podcast not too long ago, not confirm that she was going to Paradise, but pretty much confirm that she was going to Paradise. She said that the franchise loved her, were her words. Second, that she wanted to find love. And there was something else, like if the opportunity presented itself, she would jump at it. But I don't know. And I know, Fiona, you and I have talked about this before, but I just don't like Daniel said, Victoria's not a real queen, and I don't feel like we know the real Victoria, because was she putting on a front? Did she not see a future with Matt James, so she thought, I'm just going to do whatever I can to get screen time and I'm going to play up this Queen Victoria role? Or is that really her? I think if she's on Paradise, we'll find out. What do you think, Zach?
Victoria is a real queen. She showed up with a throne and a crown. Of course she's a real queen. So I want to see her there. I love those personalities on Paradise. Sandy says, Chris should come back. I don't understand how Matt and Rachel are now together, but Chris is still the bad guy. Yeah, I've seen these comments a lot, but I think the difference is that Rachel is not pursuing a career on The Bachelor anymore. So it doesn't really matter in regards to the show if people forgive Rachel or not. I mean, obviously everyone is welcome to decide what they want, but Rachel isn't trying to go back on the show. Chris is trying to get back, or we think he's trying to get back on the show. So I think it's just obviously different situations, but also Chris is heading back to TV. Rachel is not heading back to TV.
I agree. I think they're very different, Zach. Tanya says, I'm going to be honest, if Victoria's cast in Bachelor in Paradise, I can see her busting up connections. 100%. Here's the thing. My issue with Victoria was, at first, she was great TV to me. I was like, oh my God, what a character. So happy to have her here. But it got a little exhausting, and the drama was so extensive and so over the top and so toxic, honestly. It really crossed lines that I feel like if you look back at the season, the amount of airtime we had to follow those narratives just to understand them, that's what drove me crazy a little bit. I love the villain as much as the next guy. I just don't want to see her go to Paradise and the whole narrative of Paradise be keeping up with all the drama, right? Because we do want to see some love stories in the midst of all of it. So anyways, controversial figure. We're going to be talking about her, I'm sure, for many lives to come. You guys, those are all the questions and comments we have time for today. This is a huge update, so if we didn't get to yours, hop in the comment section of this video. Let us know your thoughts. Obviously, we are going to continue to keep you updated as we learn more and more about Paradise. With all of that being said, of course, if you're not already subscribed to our channel, make sure you do. Ring that bell because we're going to keep you updated all season long of all the things to come. We've got Katie coming up. There's a lot to talk about. As always, I'm your host, Fiona Zaring. I was joined by the incredible Morgan Wright and Zachary Reality. If you guys want to come say hi, check out our socials. They're on the screen right now. Thanks for tuning in live with us, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.